do whatever you want.
Are you gonna start? God, this is really disgusting.
What are you drinking?
Coconut water, dude.
Why are you drinking it?
Yeah. Because this is like all I had without actually like drinking real water.
Why don't
It's
you
jam-packed with
regular water?
naturally occurring electrolytes, dude. And
I
more
heard that.
potassium than a banana.
I heard about that. I mean, it's good
No
for you.
fat and no cholesterol means big hearts and small butts.
Well, you could definitely use the nutrients, that's for sure.
I don't think that helps. Damn, this song is sick. I'm glad you played this song.
Can you hear it?
Well, I'm listening to the stream.
I've never heard of this song in my life.
It's the best game ever. No one's ever played it.
I know, no one's gonna know what game it is. Alright, internet, I had enough of this shitty song. How do I change this dumb thing? Boom. Turn the song off. Boom.
Gross.
Forget that shitty song. Alright, internet, how you guys doing? You're watching ATP Live. Hold on, let me tweet this motherfucker. Boom. Alright. My name's Eris. I'm joined by Rickstah. How's it going, Rickstah?
Doing good.
And we're here. We're blessed by having the legend, Jimmy J. Tran here, fresh off of his victory at the U.S. Global Qualifier. What's up, Jimmy? Wait a minute. Fuck. Hold on.
What's up?
What's up, man? I forgot to change your thing.
Well, you can follow him at Repaul.
Yeah,
apparently.
no, don't follow that.
No.
Follow, hold on, I'll do it real quick.
Yeah, no.
What is your Twitter, Jimmy J. Tran?
Yeah, simple.
J. Tran. Easy.
What's the J stand for?
My middle name.
Which is top secret.
Is it really like top secret? Or we're just never supposed
It's
to
not.
know?
It's not.
Is it like Dewey, like NorCal Pinoy?
Jewy?
NorCal
Jewy.
Pinoy is the best one, dude. Anyway, all right, cool. Thanks for coming on, guys. Jimmy, I got a lot of questions I want to ask you. You did stay over here at Casa de Bactanians over the last weekend, and we spent a lot of time examining the game, having some conversations about Tekken Tag 2, and I couldn't help but notice that your knowledge and execution are higher than average. Like, I feel like when I'm watching you play, you're playing in a way that I think most people strive to play but can't achieve, right? Especially in the
Yeah.
United States of America. Now, the pickle comes in when I think, okay, who is he playing against? Because, you know, in Japan and Korea, we have these big arcades filled with good players and whatever. You're just
Yeah.
playing against Bronson. I mean, you also said you play against PBV or whatever his handle is.
Johnny.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Johnny. And, you know, you don't have that much competition up there. So first thing I want to ask you is, how is it possible for you to achieve this level of maximizing every situation when you're all by yourself? What's like your regiment, you know?
Well, if you think about it, like the two things you mentioned that I was good at were execution, which has nothing to do with anyone else. Execution is something you practice yourself. And
Okay.
it doesn't depend on who you're fighting against. That doesn't make a difference. And the second thing was knowledge, and you could just do independent research. I mean, it's true that you need a certain extent for experience against other characters, even though you know them on paper. It is definitely different fighting them. But
Absolutely.
my whole style is basically based on playing the game and not the player. So that's how I can achieve that.
Interesting. Now, okay, my rebuttal on the first statement you made was about execution not requiring another person. Now,
Yeah.
I think that there are two real types of execution. There's the type in training and then the type in tournament. Now, yeah, you don't need to practice with another person to have execution, but the clutch execution that I see you have, I think, generally speaking, most people, at least humans, need to practice in the high-stress environment in order to do those things in the clutch. So how do you explain that?
True. This is true, but I have been around for a while now, so that might be the case.
Okay, so you're saying you're chalking it up to your previous experiences in other games, which I want to get to, combined with your practice in terms of execution by yourself.
Just about over the past 9 years, yeah. So
Okay, interesting. Now, next question, directly where my mind goes, is where do you find the motivation to do this kind of independent research and solo practicing to get to the level of? I mean, many people have said you're on the level of Koreans in those regards. So, I mean, how do you get to that level, and how do you find the motivation to get to that level by yourself?
well, the execution thing, I guess, might come naturally because I don't actually practice that much. Like people think I spend a lot of time with things like taunt, whatever, like taunt shit up or taunt back four and whatnot. And I really don't spend that much like active time in training mode in it. I mean, I only mainly use training mode. Like I told you, I mainly use it for just research.
But I mean,
And
okay, so if what you're saying is true about your legacy experience carrying over into this game, then that should apply to things like taunt back four, or whatever it is, back three, and taunt jet upper and stuff. I mean, if you know how to do those things, you know how to do them in this game. But let's talk about
Yeah.
like in the context of, let's say we're creating the perfect player. You know, what type of a regiment do you think these players should have, assuming let's say they don't have your legacy skill? What do you think is necessary to get to your level?
knowledge of the characters themselves can go a long way. I mean, every single character. I mean, I know you don't. Nobody fights against everyone,
Right.
every other character. Not even in Asia, I don't think. I mean, not every single character is represented. So, I guess independent research can go a long way there.
So you think that's the primary, most important thing?
That is definitely the most important thing.
Wow.
Just because lack of knowledge can change the tide of an entire match.
Yeah, absolutely. And a move that's not even that strong can,
Yeah.
damage the entire round. I agree. Ricky, what do you have to say about his statements thus far? Do you think that it's possible to reach this level by yourself? And what could be the motivation? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I don't know about the motivation. That's all, that's self-driven. It seems like with anyone, if you like the game, you'll want to get better, and you can do the research and all that. I think it does make sense. I mean, if you know the knowledge, if you can play the game, by the book and all that, it'll take you a really long way, I think.
Yeah.
About the execution thing, like how you said, like you still need to be able to do it, in the clutch or whatever. Like that will come with time. But obviously, the only way you can get the execution to begin with is to do it in practice mode. Once you get that, then you have to transfer that over to an actual game, and that comes with obviously competition. So, but I think practicing the execution stuff at home and all that kind of stuff, like I think that's gonna take you a long way too.
Do you? And one other thing that I noticed, Jimmy, about your play style is that once you hit the launcher, you really examine the environment to establish what you have to do to get the maximum amount of damage out of the launcher.
Because
Is that
to-
something you actively, practice? Or, I mean, how can you train that without experience? That you need to play actual matches for, right?
You do need to play actual matches, but it comes to a certain point where you have a sense of what the best thing to do would be the moment you land the launcher,
I mean,
and that builds over time.
I see. Okay. And the next thing I want to know immediately, I'm just like, these questions are coming super quick because I don't even really give a shit about the show. These are things I want to know. So,
Yeah, fine.
another thing that I'm wondering, it's like an excuse for me to just ask you these questions and shit. So another thing that I'm wondering is, okay, so you've played several games. You've succeeded in just about every fighting game to some extent that you've played. Do you feel like this game requires an absurd amount compared to the others of the research and at-home training that you do? Because when I put the comparison together, I feel like if I were to practice Tekken, and I told this to you over the weekend, to the extent in which you need to just to get your bread and butters down, if I applied that amount of effort to Injustice, I would be unstoppable. There would be no way to beat me if I put that much effort into it. So, I mean, how do you feel it compares to the other games that you have succeeded in?
Yeah, I definitely feel like Tekken's the harder game. I mean, the only reason I succeeded in the other games because I didn't have to put as much focus.
That was the end of your statement? Just simply less focus and that's it? You're already better in another game?
Pretty much, it would seem that way.
Wow, interesting. That says a lot about Tekken Tag too, I guess. But this difficulty is not discouraging to you at all. It's more like a challenge. I can tell.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
true, right?
Yeah,
Now,
it's encouraging.
we're back
Sure.
to the motivation. I assume that your main motivation is just beating Bronson, right?
Basically, yeah.
And that's your whole goal. That's what drives you to play Tekken.
Um, maybe not directly, but it does irritate me how we can go back and forth throughout all these years,
Interesting.
and I still can't figure out why. And that is really fascinating to me.
And what's your hypothesis as of now?
I wish I could give you one. I mean, if I had one, maybe I wouldn't go as even. So
Interesting. So you feel like you've reached a plateau in that battle,
yeah, pretty much.
and you don't have any explanation. That's very interesting. I do know
Well,
that.
I think if I did have an explanation, then it wouldn't come to being even. But um, yeah, it's definitely a mystery.
Okay, interesting. Now, moving on, let's talk a little bit about the tournament this weekend. Both of you guys were there. Rickstah is a piece of shit because he beat me. What did you guys think? I mean, I had kind of the radar up. I was a little worried that this tournament was going to be shitty because the venue is kind of, Kanye West and a little shitty, and then I don't know. I wasn't sure, but it ended up being really cool. Markman brought his crew out. They ran a smooth as fuck tournament. I personally enjoyed everything about it except for the 2-day thing. What do you think, Ricky? How did you like the tournament? Any complaints or any extra things that you really enjoyed?
Well, the only complaint I really had was that they decided to make it 2 days, but I don't know if that was, off of Namco's decision or if that was the round one's decision. I don't think it definitely didn't need to be 2 days. But I mean, the tournament ran, perfectly. I mean, shout outs to Matrix Matt. He did a lot of work, trying to get to run. Round one was a nice venue. I mean, it's not super arcade, but it's roomy. It's loud or whatever. But I mean, it was a nice tournament. Really, I had nothing to complain about other than the 2-day thing. But I can't really blame that on the tournament. It ran how it was supposed to run.
Yeah, I find that the 2-day thing is just the one pickle. What do you think, Jimmy?
Yeah, I totally agree. It was just a 2-day thing, and everything else was really smooth. 3 out of 5 matches was really good too, like the
Okay.
whole way through.
Yeah,
And that was
not
really
many
comfortable.
people know, but you lost 2 straight to Tomahawk, and then
I
you
did.
came back and beat him. So initially, the tournament rules were 2 out of 3 until the day of, and had they not changed, you would have ended up losing to Tomahawk, which would have changed everything. The
This is true.
time continuum, space time continuum would have been. Whatever, who cares? Anyway, so
Whatever,
I
who
mean
cares?
that's interesting. What about the concept of arcade versus console? For me, huge difference. I want to like arcade, but I'm not familiar with it. How did it feel to you in terms of tournament on arcade? Talking to you,
Are
Jimmy.
you asking me or Ricky?
Talking to you, Jimmy.
Well, I mean, I've never played a tournament in this game on arcade, so I mean, it was still a new experience to me, even though I have more practice with arcade in Sunnyvale or at Sunnyvale, and that helped a little bit for sure.
Yeah, I noticed Bronson was complaining because he didn't play enough on arcades, and he was like, "Oh, I should have played on arcades more." So, interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
what do you think, Ricky? How did the transition feel for you?
Well, I practiced a bunch. Well, not a bunch, but I mean, like I had like a few sessions at round one beforehand, so I got used to the arcade feeling. It's definitely different, but I like head-to-head setups. Even if it's not arcade, if it's just consoles, I've always liked head-to-head.
Yeah, me
And
too.
so that was really cool, just because you can be more free with your movements or whatever, and not have to worry about the other messing up with the other the opponent's senses or
Yeah.
whatever.
You mean your own
And
personal
it's funny
movements,
too,
like
because why,
emotions?
yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
some people, they just want to, like, if they're online or whatever, they freak out. But when they play in person, they're more calm or whatever. I mean, if you saw Just Frame James, how he acted,
Yeah.
while playing
No,
on
that's crazy.
cabs, it was crazy because he was more animated than I've ever seen him
Yeah,
play
man,
Tekken.
yeah.
Like, he would do combos, and then as soon as he finished it or do something that I know he hit, he'd do this, that whole
Yeah, the
arm
flare,
back
the
thing.
jazz hands, boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know all about that shit.
Rip told me that he did something like against Gala where he's like he knew it was gonna hit, and so after he did it, he stood there like this and just watched it hit. Like it's like things like that. He would never do that if on when you're playing side by side.
Right.
Might be out of respect or something, but I mean, just it's so much more interesting to watch it like that.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I could see a player getting way more hype and talking way more shit like out loud or visible celebrations on a head to head because you're not giving away any tells. You know, you can fist pump your ass off every time you do a dope combo, and the other guy's like, "Oh, he must be stone cold because he can't see you." So,
Oh, trust me, Chet didn't see how much I was bitching on the other side.
see what I
on the
mean?
other side of
Yeah.
the cabinet, dude. I was bitching so much.
That's another thing. I do find that when shit goes wrong, the emotions come out too. Even James and even myself, every time I got hit by something, I was like, just pulling my beard out. I was so pissed, you know? So that aspect of it I thought was pretty cool. But I myself personally like to, abuse the shoulder pumps and the dead buttons, so that was peculiar. Like the tournament clutch in that regard was a little odd, but it's nothing you can't get used to. But I guess like historically, when I look back, I think my favorite is arcade side by side. Just because it maintains the mind games of dead buttons, but it's still the arcade cabinet. But I don't think many will agree on that. But, talking about the other games, Jimmy, and I heard Bronson many times make the joke that you're his Pokemon, right? Like, he's trained you, like it's a joke, but it's interesting to kind of think about that, right? And when I was thinking about that, and of course I had looked at flowers, so I was getting very imaginative. I was thinking, what if you could create your own fighting game player, And the funny thing is, it's kind of like training a new player in the way that Bronson trained you. So if you were training a new Mr.Naps, if you were training your own Mr.Naps, what kind of a regimen would you put them on? How would they start? What's the beginner's most important thing? And then let's say the next 3 steps. What do you think, Jimmy?
Well, first things first, I would figure out what they would be most comfortable with, like what kind of player they are, if they're playing against the game or they're playing against people. Like if they're that type. First of all, I mean, I might be Brodson's Pokemon or whatever, but I play nothing like him.
Right, of course. I didn't mean to suggest that. I just meant he trained you, yeah.
No. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, first and foremost, you should figure out what they're best at and build upon that, I suppose.
Okay, so for the sake of being less vague, let's say you're training someone who reminds you of yourself. So, very much like yourself, but, and he has the dedication, so whatever you assign to him, he will do, right? This is a pretend environment. He doesn't have a job, not that needs to be pretend in some people's cases, Jimmy. But, let's say in a pretend environment, what's the order of things for Tekken, in your opinion?
Well, first things first, character knowledge, like I said earlier. My Pokemon should not be confused about what's going on to begin with.
Okay, so what do you mean? Like, as far as his own characters or all characters?
Everyone.
So that's first. He doesn't even pick a character.
That's first. Yeah, in fact, you learn everyone else besides your own first.
Wow, this is very military style. I like that. Okay. So first lesson is what? Like, I mean, how are you supposed to learn other characters without learning one to kind of defend against them with? Would you say there is a generic character that they should start with?
Well, first you should play whoever you want to begin with.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Tight. Okay, so let's say we've selected a character and it's your characters, Brian Dragonoff. After we've researched every character and we understand in the mythical world every frame and everything about the game in terms of knowledge, what type of real world execution training do you think someone should go through to become good at Tekken Tag 2? Since you know the game so well, I assume you should know or have an opinion about that.
Well, playing matches. I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the next step. You don't suggest a lot of time in the training room.
Not too much, no.
Interesting, which is a classic way of thinking. That's like kind of how it was back in the day. Like, there was no practice mode. You just go to the arcade and lose money.
Yeah, you need bread and butters first of all, but once you have that down, then you can expand upon later.
Interesting. Now, one of the main reasons I'm asking you these types of questions is also because I'm on the lookout for a new character to pick. So I'm curious how you would go about picking these characters. So this is kind of the train of thinking that I have. So basically, first and foremost, knowledge is key. You think that you will get very, very far just by playing the character, and it doesn't matter who's behind the wheel. As long as you know what this character is capable of, you can suppress the player because you know there's nothing else he could do. It's either Ryu's fireball or uppercut or hurricane kick. That's the kind of umbrella philosophy you take?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is this what you do with every game?
For the most part, I take the same approach for every game.
Really? Including Marvel
Yeah.
and Street Fighter 4 and all that stuff. Games that have kind of a lot of unknowns, especially in Marvel.
What was that?
Doesn't Marvel, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Marvel have a lot of unknowns in terms of defense? Like, you have to know a lot of, shit. You have to know a lot of teams and a lot of tricks and setups. So how can you apply this type of philosophy to that game?
Well, the same way with any other game. Why would that change anything?
Even though the obtainable amount of information seems unobtainable in that game, you still strive for it. That's the primary goal.
Yeah.
That is very mechanical to me. It seems like it seems like the way you would program a computer to work. A human shouldn't be able to do that, like, and have fun. To me, I guess you can't give an explanation about that. You think what's fun is fun. What do you think, Ricky? Do you I mean, I know you. I know you would never be able to do that. You can't even stand training mode for 5 seconds. So
Talking about me?
yeah, I'm talking about you. You would not be able to like do that because I like training mode and I wouldn't be able to do all that research. So there's something there. It's like
For me, like,
Go ahead.
well, like if I'm going to training mode, it's either because like I'm trying to learn a new character or something, or I'm just trying to learn like some stupid situation for later. But yeah, I can't. I'm not someone that sits in training mode, just like tries to expand on my characters or anything like that. I do that in game. I feel like, the way Jimmy does it, it seems very like he would kick me out of the house immediately if I was his Pokemon.
Yeah, I totally agree. You're a shitty Pokemon for sure. You're probably like Jigglypuff or one of the shitty ones. I don't know if that's a
Jigglypuff's
shitty
the best
one. I don't know anything about Pokemon. He just sounds shitty, unintimidating. Man, that's pretty wild. I mean, I keep trying to. I feel like there's some hidden motivation that you have, but I guess the lesson to be learned here is that all you need is one person, and you can reach with the right amount of research, discipline, and knowledge, and one opponent who is smart enough and has an equal drive to try and beat you consistently. That's all you need to reach, like, at least upper crust in the United States level. I mean, is that what the final statement you could say about that, Jimmy?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really argue it, right? I mean, it's a fact. Man, that's unbelievable. Because, everyone always says, like, oh, I live in, like, whatever, Afghanistan or Sweden or some crazy place. And they're like, I'm alone. All I have is online or, like, one or two other buddies. And that's a huge complaint for them. Like, it's hindering their growth. You think that's all bullshit. Like, all they have to do is have the right mindset, and it'll be a different story. What do you guys think? I want to know what both of you think about that. What do you think, Jimmy?
As long as the matches are close between you and this other guy you're playing, I mean, it makes no difference.
One other guy, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. What do you think, Ricky? Is this possible outside
the
of
other guy,
Bronson and Naps?
the other guy has to have the drive just like you do, to get better. And so if you're constantly going back and forth with somebody, then I feel like then you'll at least learn something. You're learning how to be your buddy, and your buddy's learning how to be you, and you can constantly grow from there. But then if you just end up beating the crap out of him nonstop, then you're not learning anything, and neither is he. So I would probably say that it helps for Jimmy's case because he's been playing for so long as well. Like starting now, especially in tag, would probably be a little bit harder to do that. It would take a lot longer, but I think it's still possible. It would just take a lot of commitment.
Interesting. Well, I mean, that's basically it all boils down in the end that Tekken Tag 2 is one of the harder fighting games out there, and if you're starting from scratch, you're kind of fucked, like, unless you really love the game, And I think everyone can agree with it, even people that really love the game, like you, Jimmy. Do you
Yeah.
feel that way? I mean, at this point, for a brand new player to come into Tag 2, it just seems like, what are your thoughts on that? I'm sure you get a lot of people on the internet or randomly just like, hey, can you show me how to play, or can you give me some tips? What are your thoughts going through your mind? Because I know you love the game, so you don't want to be discouraging. But what are your thoughts?
Well, it is a really hard game to start off with, but I think once you get into it, it's not as bad as people make it out to be.
Okay, so that reminds me, you were training Andre, Magus1234, to play the
Yeah.
game, and he has, though he might play a little bit now, he kind of quit, right? Um, when you were training him, and
Yeah.
there were points when he was kind of discouraged, and he was like, man, what the fuck? All I did was practice, and you kicked the shit out of me 100 games in a row. What is your, like, consolation prize to him? Like, what do you tell a guy like that when they're really discouraged and they think Tekken Tag 2 is really hard? What do you kind of tell him to make him not feel discouraged, in your opinion? What's a good method?
Well, I mean, I tell them that everyone goes through the same thing, especially in the beginning of Tekken and playing against a good player. I mean, you're gonna feel that way for a while, but it's only up to you to figure out how long you want to feel this way.
So, baby steps and goals, huh?
Yeah.
Climbing up the ladder. Interesting, interesting. Okay, so another thing I wanted to discuss, future tournaments. Do you have any plans on going to any other tournaments other than the Korean global tournament you qualified for?
As of right now, there aren't that many out there. I mean, there's the Fall Classic thing, and
Yeah.
then there's what else is there?
There's the Filthy Cup, I
Filthy
think.
Cup.
Cup is the same weekend as
Oh,
Korea.
yeah. That is a fucking tragedy, dude. Why do they keep doing this shit as though there's Tekken tournaments all the time? They're double booking Tekken tournaments? Okay, so October, when is it? 23rd or some shit?
So I think 26th.
So that's the Fall Classic, which is in Philadelphia or something? Where is that shit? Anyway,
don't
Fall Classic, Google it. On the same weekend as the Korean Global Tournament, which is not cool. I don't know how that happened, but that's a bummer. Sorry, Filthy Cup is on that weekend. So you're not planning on going to that, obviously. You're not going to the Fall Classic. Do you have any
No.
other plans to go to any other tournaments?
I want to go to Final Round next year.
Okay, that's going to always have Tekken, and that's a big... have you ever been to Final Round?
I've never been to Final Round.
You went, right, Ricky? Is Ricky frozen?
You look it.
Uh-oh. I think he just
Yeah.
sent me a text. Computer froze. Whatever. Who gives a shit? He wasn't saying anything anyway. Anyway, so
All right.
let's talk a little bit about the game and the characters specifically. So
Yeah.
you taught me a shitload of stuff over the weekend. Some stuff that you weren't necessarily trying to teach me, but I was just observing and I was noticing the way you play and some of the things that you do. Do you feel like... Oh, there he goes. Do you feel like... Do you feel like your play style between characters changes a lot? Like, let's say you're playing against Dragunov. You were telling me that you have all these mini little option select type of sidestep fuzzy guards that you apply, right? Is there a strat like that for every character? Are you on the level where...
I wouldn't say for every character. I can't say that.
Okay, so I mean, how much do you adapt based on whether your opponent is using Zafina or whether your opponent is using XSplit or whatever?
Well, I mean,
XSplit?
XSplit.
Whether your opponent is using whatever.
The Fina or XSplit?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, I might have. But anyway, go on.
Well, first off, I simplify it like a move pops up. What can I do exactly? Can I duck? Can I sidestep? Can I punish? Is it mid? Is it low? Is it high? There's a huge flow chart going on in my head after every move pops up.
Really?
So if nothing falls in between that, then actually that's really rare. If nothing falls in between that, then I would just do nothing, pretty much. That is the end of it.
So it has to be a very specific type of change you need to make. Can you give any examples?
Not off the top of my head.
So let's say you're walking into a match against Bronson.
Yeah.
I mean, there is going to be a big level of playing against the player in that matchup. Even though you say you play against the character, there is going to be a big...
That's what my style is based on. But
Okay.
I mean, I will have to play against the player like eventually.
Hey, what's up, Ricky? How's it going?
I just try to avoid it as much as possible.
Like,
Baby.
1 second. What's up? Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
he's back.
fine.
Yeah, he's back.
Okay. Anyway, so when you're walking into a match, let's say against like Lily, or let's say against
Yeah.
Eddie, and you know that
Yeah.
next up
Okay.
is. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That reminds me. The very first thing I do before the match even starts is I remind myself which is their weak side, which side. So you just gave me an example of Lily and Eddie.
Okay.
Like I guess if they were to play like Lily Capo team, I guess
Uh huh.
Lily would go. You would want to go left primarily, and then Capos you would want to go right primarily. And I remind myself that before every match,
Interesting.
before it
So,
even starts.
Don't forget, this is the direction. That's like number one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I've heard of a lot
I
of
mean-
people doing that.
That's what you can base the character on without having to figure out what moves they're going to use first. I mean, this is what you can decide before the match even starts.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I start there.
Okay, so now we're getting into the juicy stuff. So for your Pokemon, what you would do is you would separate the cast of characters into two: sidestep left and sidestep right. And
There's also the
Go ahead.
yeah. There's also the special third category, which is sidestepping is feudal, like Steve.
Okay.
Certain categories like that. But
Okay.
yeah.
And these are all conclusions that you've come to, or has someone assisted you in these conclusions?
Like Flying Wonky says in the chat, I have looked at the list of sidestep directions that you would want to go to for certain characters, but from Nobi, and I agree with most of them, but yeah, some I don't quite agree with. So
For
it is
example.
based on my discretion.
Okay. So
Personally.
you do your own research, and then at
Yeah.
times you may disagree, and then you have a logical
With
reason
Nobi,
for it.
yeah, I might disagree with Nobi. Like this situation calls for more sidestep right rather than left. Like for example, Bruce, if they're the type to throw out more down forward twos than any other move, I mean that is a dangerous move to step left into. Even though normally you would want to go left against Bruce overall, but I mean if the player is just throwing out down forward twos, it's a little dangerous to keep going that way.
Interesting. Okay, so this is something you've established beforehand, and that's part of the research you were talking about, right?
Yeah, it is.
Do you have a method? Like when you walk into my basic goal in asking you these questions is there's several people who are watching this or in the chat that want to get better, right? And they don't necessarily know what direction to take, what direction to step every character. So what I want to do is through your answers and my questions and Ricky's Robin Quivers sitting there and doing nothing, what I want to do is I want people to be able to listen to this and then do their own research. So what do you recommend? What are your methods? Do you just pick the moves you don't want to get hit by, or how does it work? What's the specific method?
Well, my method for that specifically is the character's game plan. First of all, you have to know how the character works to begin with to figure out what to sidestep.
Okay.
And the same can go for like their stances too. Like directions may change, and you
Interesting.
keep that in mind. And other than that, it's pretty much just pure research.
You know, I mentioned to you while you were here that I personally think that you're way better at Tekken Tag 2 than you were at Tekken 6. And I always thought you were really good at Tekken 6. But it feels like in this game, you've just gone out of the way to, like, be as machine-like as you can. Like, just optimizing. It's retarded, you know? I get very frustrated watching you play because it's like, these are the things that you're supposed to do, but you can't really do it every time. And you're just, like, chilling with your shoes off, like, whatever, yeah. That's what you do. I found it to be peculiar. What did you think, Ricky, when you're observing Jimmy and his playstyle? Do you feel like it's his playstyle is abnormal, or do you think other Tekken players can strive to be like him?
Well, I just know that common mistakes that I can get away with against certain players. It's hard to get away with it against Jimmy.
Right.
I mean, there's always players like that. Like MYK, Kane, they're kind of like that too. You can't get away with some things that you would be able to get away with other players. So, I could just tell Naps knew way more about the game than I did. So you just kind of, it's almost like you have to play dumb in order to beat Jimmy.
You definitely have to think outside the box when you're playing against me, because if you're playing in the box, you're playing my game.
It's your box. You own that shit. So, yeah, I can agree with that. It's really interesting. So, moving on, let's talk about different player archetypes. You know, so you're one. You're the type that's by the book. You do party, but when it's party time, you don't party. You party on Friday night only. You know, like as opposed to other guys who are partying every night, 24/7. You know, Andrew WK. So when you look at Tekken Tag 2 as a game, and I recently am coming to this conclusion. I've been playing the game and examining it myself since it came out, but recently I'm coming to the conclusion that I think your playstyle and your archetype is the best in this game. The meticulous machine-like or striving to be like a machine style can get you very far in this game, while in Tekken 6, I felt like you didn't necessarily need to optimize everything. Do you guys agree with that? I'll start with you, Ricky, and I'll give you time to think, Jimmy. What do you think about that, Ricky? Do mistakes not fly in Tag 2 while they did in T6?
I think it's almost. I guess mistakes can fly. You know, I felt like mistakes fly regardless. You know, it's just whether or not the opponent is good enough to capitalize on it. You know, but I feel like I've always felt like in this game you can get away with a little bit more than you could in T6.
You think so? I don't know. I mean, initially I thought that too because the opponent like had a limited amount of knowledge they could have, but Jimmy has brought into new light that humans can contain all the frames of the game and execute accordingly. So if you're going to assume that this type of player is, you can reach this level on your own with one other player, then that tells me that like you can achieve that and compete potentially with Koreans and Japanese. So when I watch the best players in the world, I feel like they are playing in this way. They're not partying too hard. They're playing very much by the numbers, and they're playing the character. And I think the reason that flies is because of the damage. What do you think about the topic, Jimmy?
About what specifically?
Well, I mean, do you think your playstyle is the primary number one archetype for this game system?
I don't think it's for this game system necessarily. Like specifically for this game system. I think it's just well, I mean, I play that way just because it's the most comfortable way for me.
The reason I say this, my defense in that statement is that, so to me, Tekken Tag 2 has a lot of characters and information, a little too much, right?
Yeah.
And at that amount of characters and information, it almost seems to the average person impossible to achieve that type of knowledge and execution, right? But if you were able to, you would be extremely good, right? Even though perhaps you don't have the experience in this game, and then you come along and you do something like, you know, perform under these conditions, and I'm watching you play in first to fives, and I'm thinking this guy's just getting every point. So if you're able to reach that type of a play style and level in a game where there's so much to learn, you're going to be way ahead of the curve. There's going to be a lot of players out there that are not going to know as much as you know. And as you said earlier, you can, I mean, a tournament match can be swayed on knowledge of one tiny strategy.
Yeah.
So let's say you know way more of those tiny strategies than the average person, like myself or Rickstah, right? If you were to put any weight into the art of war at all, it says you have to know yourself and the enemy to win 50% of the time. You know? Sorry, to win 100% of the time. If you only know yourself, then you only win 50%, and the same goes if you only know your enemy. So I feel like almost all your opponents, at least in America, are only going to know either themselves or their opponent part of the time. Like for example, like me or Ricky, we're going to know our characters, but maybe not everything about the opponents. Now, you basically know everything about everything. So in a realistic US type of environment, I feel like if you were my Pokemon, this is the archetype I would want to train him in. Like, forget playing the player, because this game is way too funky and too goofy to really rely on that. What you have to do is rely on manipulating the game system to give you as much damage as possible, so that even if the player may be better than you, it doesn't matter, because he's limited to what Ryu can do or what Ogre and Jinpachi can do. You know, you're basically like putting them in a jail cell. And all they can do is inside this jail cell, while you're the warden and you're walking around the prison, and you could just step into any jail cell you want and play, you know, against that opponent. You know, it's a weird analogy, but yeah, I don't know if you agree with me or not. I would want an archetype like yours in this game from my examination. What do you think about that, Ricky? Would you prefer another archetype, or did you freeze again?
What?
Because your
No,
fucking picture froze last time and you didn't move.
Well, I mean, that sounds like the best, especially for this game. Yeah, you're right, because the more knowledge you have about all the characters in this game, it's gonna help you out tremendously, you know. But uh, yeah, I guess like for Nap's playstyle, it will work to an almost like an extent, you know, like it can get him maybe to a certain level, and then once you get there, then you just have to kind of party. You know, I feel like you have to learn how to party so you can actually utilize your, you know, all the shit you learn, and then just, you know, throw them off like doing something really dumb,
Interesting.
and that could totally work.
Okay, and that definitely makes me think about what strategies you are. I'm sure you're beginning already to formulate strategies for Korea. Now, what type of strategies might you have in mind to perhaps beat some of these players? What do you think you have to do to win there?
Well, first I'm gonna try to still fight against the game. I mean, that's just my style personally, and the players shouldn't matter. In my flow chart of how to play the game and how to play against the game, the players should not matter. So I'm going to play the same way I always do against Koreans.
Interesting. And you feel like you don't have to change your mindset or preparation, assuming that perhaps they know as much as you know?
Yeah, if things go horribly wrong, then something has to change. But yeah, I'm just gonna play by the book like I always do. That's what I
Interesting.
default to. So I have to start there.
Okay, fair enough. Now, I have another question. How much watching do you do of matches?
Uh, a pretty good amount actually. And then like when I'm watching, I definitely come across moves or certain like situations that I don't quite um, remember how to deal with, or the frames or whatnot, and then I definitely look it up. Like the moment of, I definitely look it up just because I might forget later.
Interesting. I recall that in Tekken 6, during the time when I was really practicing the most useful tool was MYK at the arcade, because the moment something happened on
Yeah.
screen that I didn't know, I could say, "Hey, Mike, what is that?" And he would just tell me,
Yeah,
and
you would just like turn to him and then he would say,
yeah, I mean, it was so valuable. I used to think that MYK was like a smartphone, you know, or like some mobile app, you know. It was
Yeah.
just really useful. And I totally know what you mean. I can relate to that. The moment you think of it, if you look it up and learn it, I feel like you'll remember it and retain it more, as opposed to like if you take notes and then you look things up later. I
Yeah.
feel like that maybe the reason that you retain the information more is because you have to immediately apply it in the arcade. Usually, like you say, "Oh, what was that?" You know, so that the next time you play him, you beat him. I mean, basically, that's a huge tool. And for that reason, I like the idea of people having that app. There's an app that I use called Tag 2 Combo. I think it's a really good app for frame data. Do you have a recommendation on something like that, Jimmy?
I just use the Ina Tekken wiki. That's all I use.
Even on the go?
Yeah. Why? How can I not use it? I mean, I have internet on my phone, so I might as well access the site
Okay.
of Ina Tekken wiki, and yeah, it's
Okay,
convenient.
well, for those of you who don't want to deal with 1, 2, 3, 4s instead of directions and all LPs and WKs, you can check out that app. It's called Tag 2 Combo, and I think it has a really good UI for, you know, people who are retarded like myself. It's really simple and easy to use. Do you use that, Ricky? I know you have a frame data app.
Yeah, that was the one I showed you, that app. I downloaded one before that, and then the reason why I got this one was because it had like the combos that people could post up online.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I looked at that, and it was kind of interesting. Some people put up, you know, dumb combos like, "Oh, do two Paul Death Fist, it does 2 million damage." You
Yeah,
know,
2
like,
million. I know. I've seen those.
but you know, but outside of that, I mean, it's kind of interesting just to, like, see the combos and if they actually work, and you know, the frame data there is good too. It's most of the frame data is from Ina Tekken anyways.
Yeah.
Some of it's a little bit outdated though, so
Yeah, I mean
But
that I like that resource. I just any game that I play, I like having a handy like frame data list just for those moments when MYK isn't around or something happens that you don't know. Yeah, it's a really good idea. I would highly recommend just looking it up immediately so that you retain the information instead of just letting it go because those are the things that will fuck you up in a tournament. Like if you didn't know that was punishable, you're doomed.
Yeah.
So that's a big factor. All right, interesting. One of the next topics I want to talk about is the future of Tekken. What direction do you want them to take the fighting system? Jimmy.
What direction? Well, obviously, the biggest complaint about Tekken is that it's too hard. So, simplifying it
You
would
look
be
like
the obvious
someone's
answer.
twisting your arm to say that, though.
Yeah, it would. Well, I would hate it. Yeah, of course. I mean, I spent so much time learning the ins and outs of this game. For them to change it and simplify it to make it so that somebody else could put less effort and know as much as I do is kind of discouraging.
Interesting, interesting. Since you know so much, it would be like a huge waste if they made it simplified. So you genuinely don't want it to be simpler. You want it to remain as complex or get more complex?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you want it to get simpler or do you want it to
I
remain?
don't want it to get simpler, but I mean, at the same time, they've kind of simplified the game already. Like up until Tekken 6, they've made it easier and easier and easier. I didn't think they could make it any easier than Tekken 6 and still keep it Tekken at the same time.
And you think they made it easier in this game?
No. This game's just harder. It's just Tekken 6 with tag, so obviously there are even more factors.
Yeah, I think the one of the harder things about the game isn't actually playing it, it's knowing everything. Because personally speaking, I agree with you. Knowledge is the most important thing. You can beat people like a child's analogy would be in Injustice. So I approached Injustice when I learned that game the same way you approach Tekken Tag 2. Knowledge. That's all you need to know because I have these two guns here. So it doesn't matter what my opponent is. If I know everything about, Bane or if I know everything about these other characters, they can't do anything. It doesn't matter. But getting that knowledge is so much easier in a game like Injustice. So what you want is for them to not make it like Injustice. You want someone to have to dedicate all those hours, even though it makes for a less popular game. Is that what you would prefer, or do you want more random jobbers like Rickstah to be able to know everything?
I know everything already, dude.
Yeah,
Shut
you
up.
don't know shit.
It's really hard to say. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you. What do you think, Ricky?
I mean, I agree with Jimmy in the sense that making the game simpler kind of takes away a lot of what Tekken is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason why we play is because it's so complex. There's so many. You can put your own twist on a bunch of characters. You don't have to play Brian the way Jimmy plays Brian. You can play it a completely different way and still make it good. I don't like with Injustice. I don't feel that way. There's no personality in any of the characters. I feel like if you play Superman one way, like that's basically how everyone plays Superman. And that's to me makes for a pretty boring game. But with Tekken though, the problem is that as a tournament game, it's not doing well. The numbers aren't very big. It's dropped significantly since T6, DR. Every new game for Tekken has had smaller turnouts. So I don't know whether if making the game simpler will solve that, or if that's just the way Tekken's going. Regardless, it's kind of tough to say. I mean, if making the game simpler would guarantee that we get more players playing the game, then I'm all for it because that's in the end that's all I really want is a big community playing the game.
Interesting. Any rebuttals to that, Jimmy? Have you refined your thoughts on the topic?
No, not really.
So you don't have any preference. Would you rather play Tekken just with Bronson and do all this work training against Bronson? Or would you rather, if you were to relive Tekken Tag 2, for it to be slightly simpler and more people, like Magus and all these people, would still be interested? It's not discouraging. Which do you prefer?
That would just depend on how much more simpler.
Okay. Okay,
I think.
interesting. Yeah, it's really hard for us to say without being developers of the game, but a lot of people have complained about Bound and TA and all that. Do you like it, and would you keep it?
Bound actually, I don't think Bound really simplifies anything. It makes it more complicated.
I agree. I agree. It makes it so that you need to know this specific thing for every character, but it's not just this specific thing. They all work differently, and they all will function in different situations differently. So there's a lot of information to learn just on Bound alone. So,
But
go
at the
ahead.
same time, there's too much emphasis on Bound. Like for example, like when people ask me what I'm talking about when I mention like, you do 5 hits, you want to do 5 hits, and then you call your teammate or whatever, and they're like, does that include the bound? And I'm like, of course it includes the bound, but why is that even different? Like there's too much emphasis and like confusion about what bound really is.
Well, I mean, I guess yeah. The reason is because it's essential to every combo. Like
Yeah,
it's the thing you have to do in every combo to call it like a
but
full
that's just
combo.
a coincidence, I think.
Okay. So you don't even think that it's that big of a factor or shouldn't be considered a big factor as far as the game goes?
Yeah, I mean like when people type out like the B and then the exclamation point, I'm like, what's the point of that even being there?
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
So it should just be the move, and then you should assume,
yeah,
okay, well that's what that does. This is
yeah.
the
And then
next
you
part of
look
the
at
move.
them and they're like, oh, now it makes sense. It's like,
Interesting.
why does it? Yeah,
Well, I'm
just
all about
overcomplicating
saving
things.
saving notation room. I hate long
Yeah,
notation and shit, so I can
yeah,
agree with
yeah.
that. Interesting. All right. Yeah, I mean, I think it basically boils down to when we think with our head and when we think with our heart. I mean, all of us probably our heads want more people to play the game so that the franchise
Of course,
survives and lives on forever.
of
But
course.
I agree. All of us like Tekken for what it is. It's a complex, deep, intricate game that has a lot of training, execution, and knowledge and application. So it's like super fucking hard. I mean, for me, it's like watching you play over the last weekend was very like double edged. On the one hand, it was very inspirational. First of all, because you use a character that I like. And secondly, you play in a style that I would like to play in without having to do the work. Like, I like the idea of knowing something the opponent doesn't know and then beating him like that. And that usually is the case if you know everything. You will find something that the opponent doesn't know if you know all about everything. So I like your play style and I like your application of it, but I just feel like it's discouraging because I feel like I can't achieve that. I don't have the ability to or the drive to, I should say. And you said your main motivation is beating Bronson. So that's the big.
I mean,
That's
if I had to give you an answer, then yeah, it would be having to be the best, I guess. I mean, and Bronson's in the way, so yeah,
Yeah. Okay. And he's so nearby. The person that's in your way is also nearby. I think
yeah,
that's an
exactly.
important factor.
It
Okay,
is.
interesting. Now, before we move on to the next topic, which is probably going to be the bitch calling, I want to know what since you're going to be dealing with globally some diverse competition in Korea, what do you think are the ranks? Like, how do you feel from your observations watching videos? Which country do you think is stronger? What play styles do you prefer, etc.? Jimmy.
I think, um, let's see, I think Japan is more by the book, and Korea is more by feel. I can definitely sense that.
Okay. Um,
So
but which do you
yeah,
think is stronger?
that is hard to say, but um, yeah, that's really hard to say which one's stronger.
Okay.
They're about equal, I think.
Interesting. I felt that way in T6, so I guess perhaps it's carried over.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think about that, Ricky? Who do you think is stronger, and what do you think about the other regions?
Well, I've always thought it was kind of the opposite. I always thought Korea was played a little bit more by the book and Japan played a little bit more crazy, but I think it's a little bit different now, just because the top players in Japan now have been more by the books than they were previously, I think. Um, I mean, I don't watch enough of either of them to know who's better. I feel like Korea's probably the favorite. I mean, they're the favorite regardless to win the
Hmm.
tournament just because they have three people in it. They have a better chance of winning it. But I'm more interested in the countries that we never even hear from.
Yeah.
The Malaysias, the Philippines,
Yep.
the Thailands, the Taiwans. I mean, like, because we don't know anything about them. We don't know if they're like super super good or super shitty.
Yeah, it's
It's gonna
true.
be crazy, and one of those guys is gonna just mess up the entire thing for everybody.
Yeah, and you know what's
He's just
fucked
gonna
up?
come in.
One of the fucked up things I think about that is, so these guys' videos, like the guys from Thailand or Malaysia or Taiwan or whatever, their videos are online. But since there's no like Tekken Crash or no like Wednesday Night Fights or something, nobody gives a shit. But I'm sure their videos are there and they're like really impressive. So these guys are just not famous because they're not famous, but they're probably
Yeah,
really
exactly.
good. I've heard stories about people in where is that guy from? Gamer B? Where is he from?
Taiwan.
Yeah, I've
Taiwan.
heard stories about Taiwanese people being really good at Tekken, or like, you know, Philippines. You see people like Owen and, you know, Filthy Rich. These guys, when they came over here, they were like, oh, you know, we played in the Philippines, and they were both really good too. So maybe you never know. Like, you know, this game is. There are so many variables in this game, and there are so many characters and possibilities and combinations that like. You know, even Jimmy doesn't know everything. You know, like this guy strives to know everything, but shit's gonna come out of nowhere, and he's gonna be like, "I never seen that." You know, so how often does that happen, by the way, Jimmy?
Not very often, but I mean, like, okay, when you say like I've never seen that, that hardly ever happens. But like forgetting the certain properties of it, that happens like once in a while.
Okay, okay. So
Like
I've seen
wait,
every-
wait, hold on, hold on. Like if you play like some like what stupid combination of characters, like a Raven, you know, one of the shitty character no one plays, Kuma
I mean,
or something.
I've seen.
Are you gonna be
every
like,
move.
oh, I've seen everything?
Yeah, I've seen
Are you
everything.
really gonna be
I
like
mean,
that?
in
Oh.
terms of the moves, themselves, not how they're used, but in terms of the moves themselves, I've seen everything.
I know
Oh,
what
man.
he's saying, Ricky. What he's saying is, remember earlier before we went on the air, I was asking him about Jinpachi Dragunov combos. He doesn't necessarily have to do the Jinpachi Dragunov combo. He could just think about it and then, oh yeah, what you got to do is 3 hits and then boom, do this and
Yeah.
that, and then he's gonna
Yeah.
fall sideways and no problemo. So you know, it's like he's taking his knowledge and piecing it together like someone on the switchboard, you know, operator. You know, he's just making the call and connecting the two characters, you know, and I can understand that. Though it doesn't work 100% of the time, it does work basically to the point where you need it to work. And for that reason, right, Jimmy, you're saying you've seen everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, interesting. All right, well, let's see. Is there any other things we do on this show? What else would we do? We call people bitches. I guess we'll get to other shit later. Do you guys have bitches ready to go? Oh, hey, you know what? Before we go, I got something else I want to ask you. You were very weird about character ranks. And you've been that way in T6 too. Like, I would be like, hey, you think Lily's good? And you'd be like, she's like 9.5 place. Like, you know, like, how do you put her in like these very specific spots on the tier list, you know? And
What
also,
are you talking about?
you know, you're always like, oh, she's like 8th best. Oh, that guy's like 7th best. You know, like people don't usually have a specific spot for a character that
Yeah,
deep.
I don't have specific spots in this game for the most part. I mean, aside from I guess maybe top 6.
Okay, so let's
I
hear
guess-
it. That's what I want to hear.
Top 6 would be in order Kazuya, Deviljin, Heihachi, and then Lars, Bruce, Nina? That order, yeah, there you go.
Lars is next best after Mishima's.
I believe in Lars, yeah.
Oh, you have since Tekken 6 too. May I ask some specifics?
Some specifics? I
Yeah.
mean, we all know what Lars is capable of.
Well, for those of us that don't, you know, like let's talk about it.
Uh, he has one of the best block punishments in the game. He has one of the best anti raw tags in the game. That's for sure. Upward 3,
Okay.
and that's really unique. And also, his tag cancel's not so bad. Down back open 2 is not so bad as a tag cancel. And also, he is not short of any knockdowns for to tag off of. That's really important too, I think.
Okay.
And let's see what else. There's he goes well with like everyone.
Yeah, that's
He's
one thing that
really
I think is good
versatile.
about him.
Yeah, he goes well with everyone. He might not be the best teammate for everyone, but he definitely goes well, like good enough with
Mhm.
everyone.
Interesting.
He has really good movement. It's really hard to catch him sometimes, and his sidestep is just magical. Just sidestepping things he shouldn't be able to sidestep.
Okay, and then boom, arc blast.
Yeah, and boom, arc blast, and then tag if he wants. And
Right.
yeah, 15 frame 15 frame standing launcher that is tag bufferable is a privilege in this game.
True.
Um, I'm sure there's plenty more, but yeah.
Well, this is all interesting information to me because it gives us a three-dimensional view on what you think is good in this game. So, that's basically the goal, So, the next character you said was either Nina or Bruce. Which one was it? I forgot.
It was Bruce.
Okay, so what do you think about Bruce and why you put him so high?
Let's see.
Take your time.
Specifically, okay, the block punishment thing is even better than it was in Tekken 6 with Wastang 2 wonderful combo.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That's really important. Let's see. What else? Oh, this is a privilege more than a reason why he's like 5th, but having elbows as launchers and knees as launchers,
yeah,
it's really helpful
it's a bonus. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's really helpful for fighting against raw tags.
Mm-hmm. He also has a great pickup off of like those artificial or even regular tag bufferable moves. Down 3-4 is really convenient for getting.
Very convenient. Very convenient
in this game. So that's one thing that I agree with. And basically all the characters in your top 5 at least are all heavy block punish and damage characters. So do you feel like these are primary categories if this were a racing game that you would want to be 5 in your character, like the maximum amount of block punishment and standing launcher? It seems like that's what you really are looking at. Am I wrong about that?
That is a really big factor, but I mean, it's not always the case. Like, for example, I thought Steve was really powerful in Tekken 6, even though he didn't have the best launching block punishment.
Okay.
I still think he's really good in this game. He's probably top 10.
Really?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, Ricky didn't like that. He mooed a little bit.
No. I didn't. It's not that I didn't like it. It's that there's you said, Aris, that you don't thought Steve sucked.
Yeah, I don't think Steve.
And I didn't. I don't think he sucks, but top 10. That's like, that's almost like polar opposites of what both of you guys said.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that. Let's have a little debate. Why do you think
right.
Steve is so good? And I'll tell you why I think he's not good.
Well, there are certain things where he fits really well in the game with. Like, for example, his solo damage is really good, but he didn't get to take as much advantage of it because he couldn't launch as standardly as other characters.
Right.
So in this game, you could tag into him, and that'd be nice. And what else is there? There's he has one of the best tag cancels in the game. That's super cheap.
Okay, so that's one big thing. He could come in safely.
He fits with the game.
That.
He fits in the game really well. Like Sonic Fang is a knockdown, and it's like a half screen whip punish that's has a lot of range, and also you could tag from it basically because it's a knockdown.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look across the board, there's a lot of characters who have stuff like that, who also have the proper launchers and low pokes, and
it's just not as reliable as his, I think.
Okay.
Like Sonic Fang used as a whip punish, I trust a lot.
Interesting.
I trust the range. I trust the speed. It's really good.
I personally feel like he's not a good character because, first of all, from what I've heard, he doesn't fit with any characters in the game that well, or very few. This is another thing that Nin told me. He said that he would have dropped Steve if it wasn't for Marduk. Like, he wanted that. He wanted a character that went well with Steve, and he couldn't find one until he found Marduk. So, I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily true or if it's his, one-dimensional way of thinking, but it feels like there isn't a really great partner for Steve in this game. Another thing is, I feel like an extremely defensive player who's very knowledgeable will be very difficult to deal damage to as Steve. I mean, the more you know about Steve, the harder it is for him. And it gets to a point where if you know everything about Steve, I feel like he has to take an immense amount of risk to get any kind of real substantial damage. And in this game, I mean, dude, 60 characters? You think he's really 10th?
I do think he's 10th. Like what you just said, I think it's a two-way street in the sense that if he takes the lead, I think he could defend the lead really well.
Okay, I can agree with that. If he takes the lead, he can defend. And he's a very good keep-out counter-hit style character with a lot of good punishment.
You definitely don't want to rush in recklessly against Steve.
For sure. Big time. So I can agree with that. Now let's talk a little bit more about your what you were saying earlier about your top 3. You mentioned Bruce, but who was next? Nina?
Nina was next.
Okay, and what do you think about that character overall? Why does that character come to mind?
She's very versatile. She works well with pretty much anyone. She has enough fillers to be versatile with like any character
Hmm.
really. And let's see, she can artificially tag buffer pretty much any launcher. That's always nice.
Hmm.
With Corsica forward and tag, and
Yeah,
then your teammate comes in and can basically do anything because they recover so soon.
right.
And also, um, best solo damage in the game is always nice. I
Hmm.
mean, if you're a big fan of Red Health, then Nina's a really good character for that.
Yeah, that was the big appealing thing for me. Like when I look at that character, I think like, wow, it's amazing that she's one of the characters in Tekken Tag 2 that doesn't need a bound or a TA. I'm sorry, a
Oh,
TA.
yeah, yeah.
You
You don't
know?
even want a TA mid screen. Like
Yeah.
they just get in the way.
That was so fascinating to me. You know, when I started just tinkering with that character, I thought like, dude, this is a system mechanic that every character has to do. You know, it's like to get max damage, and she's just like,
Uh,
whatever. Let me just do the same fucking
yeah,
shit over and over. It's like
and it's gonna do
really
just as
cool.
much. Yeah.
Really, really a cool design for a character, in my opinion. Um,
I
so
mean, that's assuming she doesn't even get to the wall. Once she gets to the wall, which she most likely will, then you
yeah,
TA, and then
yeah.
that's a huge mess.
And it's funny because she can finish combos in multiple different ways with tons of different
Yeah,
crazy setups. That's what's so cool. She's got a really malleable move list. So, like Ricky was saying earlier, you can just play the character to your liking. I think
yeah,
Nina's one of those characters that
definitely,
you
definitely.
could really do whatever the fuck you want. You can make your own shit up. There's probably tons of stuff no one's ever seen still, except you, of course, because you've seen everything. But
Yeah.
I've seen a lot.
Wait, hold on. I want to go back to one thing though,
go
because
ahead.
Yeah.
Eris, you were saying how you don't know if like the characters that Steve can pair with well. I want to like Jimmy. Like, who do you think Steve pairs with well? Like outside of Marduk,
Steve,
obviously.
yeah, Steve's best teammates are Marduk, Lars, and also Brian's not bad. Uh, who am
You
I
play
forgetting? I'm forgetting.
you played King, right? King with Steve.
Yeah, I think King Steve's pretty good. It's just King kind of just holds back the team. That's all.
Oh,
Hmm.
nice.
Um, let's see who else. I know I'm forgetting at least one character. Nina Steve's not so bad. It's pretty good. Um,
Do they
that's
have good
all off the top of my
Netsu?
head.
They might have good Netsu, right?
Steve likes Nina, but Nina dislikes Steve.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
How
That brings
mother she
me.
is, huh?
What was that, Ricky?
Nothing.
Cool. Anyway,
Anyway.
one more thing I want to ask. I keep remembering other topics that I'm curious on what you think about them. When you're building a team, right?
Yeah.
So let's start from scratch. Most
Yeah.
players have one character that they're way better with than the other character. So most of the time, when someone's building a team, they have one that, okay, let's say in my case, Dragonoff is going to be in the team. So when you're building a team, let's say for Dragonoff, and you're in the lab and you're trying to come up with technology and all that shitty stuff,
Yeah.
what do you usually look for in a team? What does synergy mean to you in Tekken Tag 2 when you're making a team?
Synergy means to me converting off certain launchers is important. Like for example, Brian is the only character that can jet upper for Bob to down 2-3 after everything.
Interesting.
From face down, feet away.
Hmm.
Brian's the only character that can do that. So I mean that's just like by far makes Brian the best teammate for Bob. Like
Interesting.
utility. That's what utility is. And also how characters naturally do their combos, like how many hits they do,
Hmm.
and if the assistant character has a good filler for it. Like for example, if you have a 4-hit character, Leo's probably best because she has the best post 4-hit filler. Um,
So you're talking about the natural max damage post launcher. You
yeah,
want to
they don't have
count
to
the amount
if
of
they don't have
hits.
if they can't change their combos too much. I mean, some characters can make do. Like for example, um, Mishimas can change the amount of hits they do pretty well. Um, yeah, things like that would make a good team. And also like, uh, I mean, when you're talking about the wall, some characters can adapt as well for what their teammate needs.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, people want to say like Leo's forward 4 while saying 141 is the best tag assault filler at the wall, but they don't quite understand why. I think the main reason is because you could make it do as many hits as you want, basically. Like the first hit will never count. I mean, it's always going to be clean wall splat. It's the second hit where the wall system gets tricky because you can make it hit grounded so it doesn't count if that's what you want.
Right.
And and you can make it so it hits grounded, and then you do the second hit right away, and then you do the third hit, the second one. You can make it hit grounded. You can not make it hit grounded.
Yeah, it's because of the delayability in each hit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes it really versatile. That's the real reason why it's probably the best wall filler.
Interesting. I'm getting the vibe from you that your tier list is factoring in the character's ability to work with other characters more than mine. Do you agree?
It's a small factor.
Not
it's not
that
the
big.
biggest, but it's a factor.
Okay. Continue with your explaining what synergy is to you. Does things like Netsu or Red Life throws or any of that matter, or does it boil down to... Go ahead.
Netsu is only an issue if they hate each other. Like for example, when William Powers was using Nina Anna, we would laugh at how much he wouldn't get Netsu. He would never get Netsu because they hate each other.
Interesting.
And that's when it's a huge issue. But when it's like dislike and it's like neutral, it's not so bad. It's good enough.
Especially if they're making up for that ding in their permanent record with other shit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and on the same token, it doesn't really matter for Mishimas. It's like the Mishima team. I mean, they can do just fine even if they hate each other.
Why is that?
That's just because naturally they're tagging a lot anyway. I mean, with electric and tag.
Okay, so it's
They
just the
don't really
design of
have-
the character that just makes it not
It's
matter.
very well designed actually, and naturally get knockdowns and tag buffer launchers, of course.
Okay, interesting. Can you go a little deeper into your move list? I'm just curious because of the way you look at the characters. I'm sorry, deeper into your tier list?
Deeper into the tier list. Okay, past
Yeah,
those.
finish your top 10. You had Steve in
Yeah.
there, right? And
Yeah.
then
So,
you're still
past-
missing like 3 more.
Three. Yeah, 3. But like, okay, past the top 6 that I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I think. Okay, after this there's no order. I think Bob is really strong. I think Dragunov is probably in there. Steve.
I think we should stop at Dragunov and talk about him a little bit because I might be able to argue with you a little bit. Why do you
Alright.
think Dragunov is top 10 in this game?
Okay. He's definitely one of the more versatile characters in the game. There's no real situation he can't deal with exactly.
Let's try to be a little less vague.
Yeah, well, I mean that is a big strength. He is really versatile.
Yeah, but what does versatile mean to you?
That's kind of hard to explain.
Okay.
Yeah. What else? He has no real problems with combos. That's for sure. He has no real problems with combos.
You don't think he's picky? I think he's a picky character.
I think he's only picky in the sense that you want slow wall stomp at the wall. In every other case, he's very versatile, I think.
Okay. And you think his punishment isn't that bad. I think it could be better myself.
Like I mean his crouching is probably
that's great.
amongst the best in the game, yeah. And standing is good enough, I think.
Are you serious? And no hop
Yeah.
kick?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have different opinions on how important a hop kick is to begin with.
Okay, well, you do have an orbital heal on the other end of your team, so I think that adds up. But you don't think hop kicks are that important, huh?
I mean, recently, relatively recently, I've replaced hop kick with like down forward 2 with Dragunov just to see what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I think I argued to you that the fact that hop kick's low crush is just a privilege and doesn't really pop up that often.
I agree.
And I started just like throwing out down forward 2 like a hop kick with Dragunov, and it worked out pretty much just like a hop kick. Like against Tommy, when I was down like 2-1 games. I mean, I started doing that, and I would throw it out, and it would launch. Normally, he didn't go low or anything. It just hit him out of whatever he was doing.
Does Dragunov's down forward 2 beat Art of Phoenix?
It does. The problem with that is Art of Phoenix does auto sidestep right, not as much as Tekken 6, I don't think, but down forward 2 does go really low now, so that's possible.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never even been confident enough to do that in that match, but okay. So, I mean, I feel like you ripped me off and didn't give me a good answer, but you think Dragunov is top 10, and I mean, I can't argue with it.
I mean, he's like ninth or 10th.
Okay. Well,
Yeah. And
let's find a couple characters. What I want to do is find a character that I think is better than him, that you think is
All right.
worse than him. So let's talk
All
a
right.
little bit. What characters do you think that are considered to be good, but you think are worse than Dragunov? They're overrated.
Armor King.
Really? You think Armor
Yeah.
King's overrated?
No, no, no. Well, I'm just saying Armor King's worse than Dragunov. Slightly.
Okay, okay.
Yes,
I mean, explain. In my eyes, he has a 14-frame launcher that does a shitload of damage and is tag bufferable. He has a hop kick. He has a shitload of high damage throws that, in this game, throws are extremely valuable because they're harder to break than ever. And he has solid punishment up until 14. So the way
I think it's
see
okay.
it... Go ahead.
First of all, I think it's really misleading to say throws are harder to break now more than ever. That's a little misleading.
Why?
There's no fact supporting that at all.
Well, what about the one frame of lag that exists? That's been documented.
I don't think that's the reason why people aren't breaking throws.
What do you think it is? It's the same throw as Tekken 6. It's just coming out
It's
one frame later.
I think it's mainly just because you're focusing on too much more in the game.
No way.
For example, yes.
Go ahead.
Because
go ahead.
in Tekken 6, I remember even in Tekken 6 when I would play a new character, I'm just focusing on like getting used to the new character and like what else can I throw out here, and then my throw break percentage for my side characters is definitely lower than my Brian.
Okay. Well,
Just because I have to focus on more things. And
yeah, but that's like that's neither here nor there. I mean, if you consider that's like a secondary thing, but the throws themselves are coming out one frame later. You know, so that means your break is coming out one frame later than it would in T6. So visually, so basically what I'm saying is there's a frame of lag, right? So if you are playing against me and you push the throw, the gap between your input and the visual throw coming out is irrelevant in this context, because the throw that you did to me visually comes out at the same time as Tekken 6 or Tekken 2.
I understand what you're trying to do.
Right. So my input is going to be one frame later. Of course it's going to be harder to break.
I'm just saying the difference between a 15 frame window and a 14 frame window probably doesn't come up as often as you think.
I don't know, man. I think it does. I think Dragunov's vector throws or whatever are fucking good because they're one frame faster. You know, and I think that one frame adds up a lot. In my experience against good throw breakers, I think throws are really valuable because of that one frame. That's my personal opinion. I put a lot of weight into throws. So that's for one reason why I think Armor King is pretty good. But anyway, go on. So you don't think Armor King is as good as Dragunov?
No, not by a little bit. By a little bit.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, it's really small.
You have anything to add, Ricky?
The top 10 and 15 are just all really close in this game, I think.
I can agree with that. You have anything to add, Ricky, as far as tier list? Do you have any arguments or anything like that?
Not really. I mean, I just try to think of characters that like I feel like a lot of people say are top 10 or you know are characters I think are underrated. You know, but I mean, the top 15 or whatever, I think that's pretty debatable. But I mean, like, okay. How about what's that guy's name? Naklam. He said Alex and Roger are top tier.
Yeah,
like, where would you even put them?
That guy is a fucking retard. So you know, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well, no, you know what? But a lot of the New York guys, I don't think they say he's the top tier.
Nobody else is top tier.
Well,
So,
and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's a retard because he thinks those characters are good. I think he's a retard because he got all bent out of shape that time when I invited him to come on the show, and then he ends up talking shit on some fucking whatever it is. So that guy's a fucking retard anyway. Anything he has to say is completely upside down, if you ask me. But yeah, there is a lot of
so then they're bottom tier. All right, cool.
There is a lot of debate about that kind of thing, and a lot of people do have their opinions on that. But I think generally speaking, I can at least agree with your logic. Like, even if I don't agree with you that, let's say, Armor King is a better character than Dragunov or isn't, at least I like the way you piece the argument together. It has a lot of good merit. So even if, let's say, an intelligent person doesn't agree with you, I think they can learn a lot from, the way you think and the way you piece together your teams. That's one of the main reasons I was so shocked by watching you play so closely. The way you look at this game, to me, in Tekken 6, was not the best way to look at Tekken. But in this game, I think it really is the best way because, as I mentioned earlier, knowing so much about every character and then walking into a tournament match, you just have a huge advantage over the opponent. And it's one of the hardest things to do because it's not fun for most people. Like, the research is not fun. What's fun is sitting down with your friends, beating each other up, and talking shit. Everyone loves doing that. But the amount of research and, just on your own practice that you've put into this game is just really impressive. And it shows more in this game than it ever has, to me at least. So, you get full credit on that, man. I'm, like, really impressed with the way you play this game. And the thing that further impresses it is that you're by yourself. You don't play online. It's just you and Bronson. I mean, it's almost inspirational. It's like everyone who's watching this who only has one friend or one person that plays Tekken offline locally can just look at you and be like, holy shit, all I got to do is practice and do the research, and essentially the proof is in the pudding, So it's pretty fucking impressive, man. I really am impressed with you in that regard. And
to be honest, I don't think I'm really good at much else. I think execution and knowledge of the game are all I have. I don't make any reads on any players. I start freaking out when people do crazy things, and I have no idea why, and I can't get a read on anyone. I try to my entire style is based on making as few reads as possible. I don't know if you noticed.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense when you think about it, but it's interesting. In order for your style to even work, the first rule is you have to know everything. Because if you don't know everything, then your style just fucking fell apart. Like, as soon as you see something you don't know, boom, blue screen, you're fucked, So it's really interesting. For your style to work, you really do have to watch a lot of videos, do a lot of independent research and training, and practice those situations on your own. So that when the time comes for you to play against, whatever, Lily, whoever, you're going to be able to apply make sure you go left the whole time. Don't forget about this, and that. And you're just actively thinking all these things that I, prior to watching you, thought nobody could do that. This game has 60 characters. Nobody can do that, So it's pretty dope, man. I was relatively inspired, even though I think that the game is fucking hard and really brutal and unforgiving.
It is.
Yeah, watching you play was really dope.
Jimmy, you're playing this game the hardest way.
Yeah, that's really what it is. Like, Jimmy is playing the hard game,
the most fun way.
The fun way. That's not fun.
I think that's the other thing too. No. I think when you can apply all that knowledge and then get success out of it, it probably is more satisfying than making a dumb read. You make a dumb read, it's like, oh, I knew that, and then you didn't really know. You just made the read.
Yeah, I agree. You can't argue with it because you've done your homework. It's like you're ready for the test, as opposed to other people who kind of do it like when they get there, like they see who they're playing against and figure it out,
And then just cheat.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Look at someone else's paper.
Very, very interesting. Okay, guys. I think it's about to be time to call people bitches. Ricky, do you have anyone to call a bitch?
Well, I guess I've never called this guy a bitch on the stream just because he knows he's a bitch. But Runner Black, it's time for him to get called a bitch. Not because he beat me yesterday. I mean, he beat me yesterday and was in a fight. He beat me legit. I have no problem with that. But he picked, he was in he's in grand finals on the winner's side. And he's playing Incognito, someone who he's like, oh, I can't beat Incog, when he just beat him in winners finals. And then he picks Kazuya, and then he gets butt fucked 3-0. And it's like, I can't practice. It's like, come on, dude, you don't even bother picking that stupid character because you suck. Your Kazuya sucks. We all know your Kazuya sucks. Your Jinpachi can't do it by himself. You need Jin. And then he plays the rest of the time. He gets butt fucked in 3 other games, and then he gets second. And then he goes outside. He's like, I didn't care. Shut up, dude. You cared. You try to win the fucking game, man. Also, he's also calling he also says he hates Bronson, and then at the same time he's trying to give Bronson props and shit. Like, you can't. you can't say fuck you Bronson while you have his dick in your mouth. You know, it's like you're fucking doing two different
I'm
things
sure
at once,
you
man.
can, but it won't be clear. You know, there will be a problem understanding. Man, I cannot get the image of that guy trying to say with Bronson's dick in his mouth. Okay, all right.
So yeah, he's a bitch for this week. He's got a target on his back though, just for since he beat me, I feel like I have to beat him. So next time we play, the fuck's his name? Avery. You're fucked.
Okay, all right. I have to add that one thing that I can say about Avery is that he consistently tries to get people to not like him. So I'll give him that.
He does a very
That's
good
impressive.
job. Very good job.
I'm impressed with his ability to get the max. It's like an area effect around him at all times. Like, you don't like this guy. And even if you do like him a little bit, he makes sure to fuck something else up. Just a little bit. You know, like the grand finals picking Kazuya. Like, oh, you thought I was all right, huh? You don't like me anymore after this shit. So I'll give him credit on that. Pretty impressive. What do you think, Jimmy? Who's a bitch according to you today?
Today, hold on, just a moment.
Sure.
Something's going on.
Uh-oh. Meat spin?
Oh. No meat spin. Yeah, this week I'm going to have to go back to who I called a bitch the first time I was on your podcast a long time ago.
Ooh, I like it. Who is that?
I'm
Remind
gonna have
us.
to call Master Bolo a bitch.
Okay.
He's in the chat, just chilling, never playing Tekken.
Hey, Master Bolo, let me tell you something, man. You're one of the reasons why I wanted to play Fang in Tekken 6. So you're a bitch for not playing anymore, man. You were really good at that game. Very inspirational playstyle. So you're a bitch, dude. I agree.
Yep. And also all the people that didn't make it out last weekend, like Incog and Cynic, especially for living that close. What the hell was he doing?
He's a bitch. Full time. Full time. He has an e-commerce bitch business that he's running right now. And yeah, he's a bitch on the internet too. He's a bitch. I agree. I already talked shit to Naklam earlier. I mean, that was one bitch calling, I guess. Yeah, that's going to be my bitch calling because, I never got around to calling him a bitch because of that. I invited the guy on the show to talk about his passion about the game and all that. He declined, didn't want to be on the show. And then I put the show on YouTube and he's like talking all this shit about how obnoxious I am and how he didn't have the opportunity to make his statement. Like, what the fuck do you want me to do? RSVP invitations and shit? What is this? I invited you on the show. You didn't want to come on. And now there is no invitation. Invitation is gone. So, anyway, that's my bitch calling for the day. Is there anything you clowns want to plug? Or do you guys are like the same guy. You just fucking don't do anything. No streams, no nothing. Right, Ricky?
Dude, I stream all the time.
Yeah, 24/7.
I'm gonna stream Dive Kick if someone gifts it to me and gives it to me on Steam.
Fuck you.
If you don't do that, then I'm not streaming shit.
There's no panhandling unless I'm doing it. Anyway, and Jimmy, do you have anything?
Someone gift me Dive Kick.
Yeah, gift him Dive Kick. He needs it. Jimmy, you have anything going on? Are you guys gonna start streaming your matches? I think it's a travesty that you and Bronson don't record more matches.
What was it? I think Bronson was looking into recording our matches. I don't know what he's doing with that. Because we do play like once a week, pretty much.
Dude,
and,
just record them and throw them on YouTube, or record them and send them to me, and I'll throw them on YouTube if you guys don't want to do it. It's fucking.
Yeah, I don't know what he's planning. You should talk to him about it. I don't know what he's planning.
I hate talking to him.
I know you do. But there's that, and also Sunday I think Steven's gonna start hosting gatherings. I'm not sure, but I don't know if he's gonna stream it. But if he were to stream it, it would be on twitch.tv/NorCalStrongStyle.
Okay. Well,
so
hopefully he does.
I should watch out. Yeah, Sunday. There's no Iron Fist Friday this Friday. It's gonna be next Friday. That's gonna be on twitch.tv/CPSIV.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
and then of course
you
can follow you on Twitter at JimmyJTran, always dropping random, droplets of information out there. So it's an interesting Twitter to follow. Yeah, I mean basically, every Thursday, 8 o'clock, you guys could tune in. We'll be here with someone talking some kind of shit. Thanks for subscribing to all you stars in the channel. I'm submitting my emoticons tomorrow, so we'll see how that works.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm submitting them tomorrow. That's it. I'm tired of even I've been on MS Paint at work every day trying to click on these stupid pixels. You know, fuck that shit. So I give up. I'm submitting them tomorrow. I'll see how they go. Every Thursday. What else am I forgetting, Ricky?
To cut the stream off?
No. Now it's too predictable. You got to say something.
Oh damn. There's a filthy cup and something or other. Oh, the fall classic. Vote for that thing.
Is the voting
cut it
still
off already?
going on for that? What'd you say?
I think so.
Man, this Hangouts connection has been shitty today. Anyway, internet. I guess.